Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brad, and today we're going to talk about sweet tea. Got my sweet tea, just had some. It's not really sweet tea because I don't want type 2 diabetes. So just keep that in mind. Watch after your health, especially as you get older. So for younger people, we're going to just tell you the first thing right off the bat. The most important thing out of everything, take care of your teeth. Just thought I'd throw that out for one golden nugget of the day. Take care of your teeth. Because I know, my mom is 89. Yeah. And she wished she took care of her teeth better when she was younger. And my teeth, holding up pretty good. I've had some problems, but take care of your teeth. Especially when you're in your 20s and 30s. Because, implants... I can tell you about an implant. It's not easy. It's a long process. But anyway, hey, all good. Community guidelines, just changed them, updated them. Just thought I'd throw that out for conversation. Nothing new. I mean, it's just one of those, if you get the boot, now you know why you got the boot. That's all. Don't plan on booting anybody. Actually, the last week and a half, 2 weeks, I love the comments. Actually, I really do. I mean, some of them are awesome. And I'm going to share 2 of them right now with you. One's from 24 Delta. When I talked about XPay, I was really talking about his post and had it backwards. So what he's talking about is, hey, if you take money from an IRA, you could put it into XPay and feed it back into your Roth at a lower tax bracket. You can read the post. If you're going to post stuff like that, everybody wants to read it. The next one's from Bond Z5V. Another great post because when he called Fidelity to find out when you actually have your drip, they're actually using the average of the past 2 days. Okay. You might not want to do drips of Fidelity if that's what they're doing. And the reason I found this out, the reason this is even a conversation was on Inside the Income Factory, somebody talked about SFAL and they dripped higher than that day's price. And he couldn't understand why. And here it is. They're actually using the average of the past 2 days. So don't look at the price that day. You got to do the average of 2 days, which just doesn't make sense. FYI, when I do all my calculations and I show those nice pretty graphs, I assume you buy the market on open. So you get your money, let's say on a Friday, I take the open price of that day. I don't do an average of the past 2 days to come up with what your drip is going to be. Okay. Way too much for me to try to figure out, especially every time I do a graph that, it's a little more difficult. And I did update that sheet, so it's going to be a lot quicker for me to do things. So more to come. Anyway, one thing about that is I keep on getting asked about CLM and CRM and talk about this, talk about that. I am going to review all 82 funds that are in Steven's portfolio from the Income Factory. Every one of them, 82. I will tell you CLM and CFM or whatever that one is in his portfolio. That's all I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to sit here and if I try to backtest every one of his, I would sit here for 24 hours a day for weeks. There's a lot of backtesting. And for the next thing, I want to backtest everything that's in my portfolio. I think people don't realize, and if you're new to the channel, I just retired. I mean, I'm 2 months into it. And everybody thinks I have backtested every single fund under the world. I haven't. I haven't even backtested everything that I hold. So take everything with a grain of salt. Actually, take it with a grain of sugar. I want to be sweet. take it with a grain of sugar because I don't back test everything. I looked at Seeking Alpha and thought, hey, this looks good. It's in Stevens. Yeah. And I went with it. Now I'm back testing them, each one, and I want to do, rule number one, I'm going to do my portfolio before I do something that's in your portfolio. How about that? How about that for a game plan? But I'm taking all of Stevens, and we'll get there. It'll take a while. CLO, I started my CLO masterclass. Let's just go. Yeah, I'm going to probably break it up into 3 or 4 videos, about 15 minutes a piece, and it's over an hour long. There's a lot of material to cover, but we'll get there. Now, I did back test the ones that are in that book. There's some issues about buying them, but if you want to talk about up and to the right, I'll share some of those graphs next week with you. It's up and to the right for 6 years. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 6 years up and to the right. The latest one is a 45-degree angle up and to the right. It's almost crazy type of numbers, but there's a lot more risk in this than you might think, and that's the problem. I'm trying to assess the risk before I say, hey, look at these funds, because somebody's not going to read the prospectus and they're not going to read that there's a whole lot of risk and there's no liquidity, and you might get yourself in trouble really quick. But hey, nothing I'll talk about is financial advice. Just throw that out. Or legal or accounting. You know the deal. You know, just sitting around having some sweet tea. But let's get some nuggets. So I'm going to share a lot of screens today. Global market investors. They are long equities in the U.S. stock market, like at an all-time high. That is just crazy. So if you're buying funds that are in equities, and this is the whole reason I've gone to this moving average before I buy any more equities or even put money back into some of these funds. No, I am changing that rule. So I'm going to start looking at the 50 and the 100-day moving average. If it's above the 50 and 100, no way am I going to put money back into equity funds. Just, you can't do it. I mean, it's crazy. Not going to buy at all-time highs. I'll stack some cash. When it dips below the 50, I'll put 50% back in. When it dips below the 100, I'll reinvest 100% or 100% after I take my 8. But until that happens, you can't buy at the top of the market. You're DCAing in at the wrong time, right? Just my personal opinion, not financial advice. But hey, that's just how I'm going to roll with it today. Another one, global investors pile into U.S. equities, all-time high again. You just sit there and go, Europeans are jumping in, Asia Pacific's jumping in. There's a lot of people jumping in. That's what happens when they jump out? That's the question that everybody needs to worry about. I think everything's good. Personal opinion for the next 6 to 8 months. And I'm going to de-risk a little bit. One thing I've noticed, and if you're in XDTE or QDTE, one thing I've noticed is, hey, we're hitting all-time highs or getting close to all-time highs. They're not, but they're beating the market. Just be prepared to put a little bit of money back into them, because, they are. Now, somebody asked me, hey, now that I'm comfortable with them, are you going to get back in? No, I'm going to go with things that hold the underlying. So far, if you look at my 500K portfolio, right, every one of those hold the underlying. It's clear that that's the way that I go and not hold synthetics. Misty, NVIDIA, AMZ, I still have all three. Let's just go ahead and say, yeah, they're 0.002 of my total portfolio. So they don't even equal a percentage, and that's all three combined. Just Just throw it out. That, hey, if they go to zero, great. We'll see how they work out. I like them. I like what I'm seeing. I like the percentage. And once I get house money, once it gets to 100%, hey, I'm going to take my house money off the table and just hold them. See what happens. All right? You know, NAV a drop. So what? It's house money. It's their money. I'm just compounding their own money. Compounding. I watched a video the other day, and clearly somebody doesn't know the word compounding. But obviously more intelligent than Albert Einstein, because totally compounding effect went right over their head. So just remember compounding. Compounding over the long term is awesome. Which brings me into the next conversation. I got to let into this. So how to make 2.1 million. Now, somebody made a comment the other day, how did I come up with my money? And I'm going to sit here and go, hey, I'm 56. I'm going to be 57. I'm going to be 57 this month. And I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to throw this out. How come you don't have $2.1 million? Just throw it out for conversation. I invested 15% right out of high school into something called a 401k. And they gave me 6% on top of it. Well, you didn't have to have too good of investments to get up to $2.1 million. Just, life happens though. Remember that. You get the 20s, and a lot of people don't know to invest in the 20s, and they wait. I got my daughter. I told my daughter never to buy me a Christmas present or a birthday present. The biggest present you can do for me is put money into your Roth. Max your Roth out every single year. And she does. Awesome kid. Because she'll be set for life. Because she'll be set for life. So let's start throwing that out. If you look at this going, hey, you have $4,000 a month, you know, you get age 65 and you're broke. You're going to live off of Social Security. Now, I'll tell you, I already calculated my Social Security. It's way more than $1,900. Right? The other person, hey, they're saving $800 and they're going to have 2.1 million. Now, here's my now comment. Back when I graduated high school, I only made $800 a month. Minimum wage was $3.15 or something like that. I mean, it was nothing. I mean, if you were making $10 an hour when I graduated high school, you were doing something. Sorry for the interruption. Phone was full of storage again. So we were talking about my parents bought the house for $13,000 back in the 60s. And it's like, you know, $13,000 back then was a lot of money. I don't get how people, again, we're talking about $2.1 million. And if you're getting close to my age, you should have been saving 10, 15%. And that's I'm going to say people want to retire early. People want to retire in their 50s or 30s. And they think they're going to do it with high yield funds. I talked to Jay this week, and the reason I didn't record it, and we talked about a lot of things, and he even admits, hey, you know, you can only take 10, 15% out of a yield max fund. Yeah, just because it's saying 70%, you got to reinvest all of it back into it. I mean, he literally is going to tell you that. So it's going to be interesting future interviews. I plan on having him on and doing an interview, but I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to put slides with the data and make them answer to it. Because anybody that's going to do an interview with him, he's just going to kind of wishy-washy his way through unless you actually have the data sitting in front of him and asking him questions. Just thought I'd throw it out. I mean, it's the same way that I've seen all these fund managers in the interviews. They wishy-washy the way through it until you put a PowerPoint slide in front of them and say, explain. But most people aren't going to do that. They're just going to ask him a question. He's going to give you a slight answer, and you're just not going to get it. You're going to have to really nail him down. And I tried, and I got some good answers. A couple of them was, because I always, Alti, that's a fund that a lot of people like. I don't know why, right? I mean, they big terrible stocks for IV. So one comment he made was there are going to be 5 new Alti type funds coming out, and they're going to be based like Magnificent 7. He's going to have all the same ways that he can write calls and puts and hold it, not hold it. He's going to have every single opportunity to do all that on that, and one on very similar like Rex is coming out with Bitcoin enablers. He's going to have full access to multiple companies that he can write calls and call spreads and collars, and he's going to be able to do a lot more with those than where he has his hands limited now. So I know that's in the works. Just thought I'd throw it out for a conversation, because I didn't think he's ever said that on camera to anybody, that he has 5 new funds coming out. But hey, it is what it is. And maybe he's not allowed to talk about it, but he said something to me about it. Let's keep on moving on. We're going to look at institutional investors against retail investors in the S&P 500. Holy cow. That's all I can say is that shows you where institutional investors are. They hold a lot of some of these companies. A lot. I mean, Visa, institutional investors hold 93% of Visa. Now you know. So how many funds actually beat the S&P 500? Well, last year only 40% beat the S&P 500. And that's why I like XDTE. They're currently beating the S&P 500. I will not be getting into it again. I'm going to go with T-SPY. T-SPY is beating the S&P 500. And I'm going to continue to do follow-up videos on T-SPY. He protects your capital. That's one of the biggest takeaways, is he's going to protect your capital. He wants to get 6 to 8% above SPY, but he wants to track SPY, like at the price of SPY, not 10%, 15% below SPY. He wants his price and SPY be the same price, and then he wants to put 6 to 8% on top of it, which is huge. That is actually what they call alpha. Just throw it out. All right, a lot of these funds don't have alpha, and that's why I look at those funds. They have alpha, just hard to get into them and hard to get out of them. That's going to be the hard one. Oil production. Just general conversation. Oil production is hitting a new all-time high. Trouble of it is we still don't make enough oil ourselves, and we have to import it. And that's another whole conversation, all right? So if you're into oil, and I do plan on doing the couple funds that are into oil and stuff like that, and the gold miners, I'm going to back test them, and I'm going to do the data. So everybody's got to realize, I like to back test things that have 4, 5, 6 years. Everybody's asking me to back test stuff that hasn't even made a distribution yet, and that's what I do. All right, so we'll get there. It's going to be a lot of fun to back test a lot of these funds, because maybe you got in early, maybe you got in late. I don't know. Not my judgment. Do what you want to do. Magnificent 7. Two different aspects to look at this, right? Magnificent Seven has been going up and to the right when you look at how much they're worth. They're currently down. But look at that. It goes up to the right. That is something that needs to be said, something to take into consideration. All right? They're now 32% of the total market cap. Taking that another one into consideration. Just thought I'd share with you the data of what companies are worth out there. It's scary how big some of these companies are. And hopefully you realize that you shouldn't have a total correlation to these. It's another aspect. S&P 500, presidential year. I will say this. Please go out and vote. Don't care whose side you voted for, but I saw it on LinkedIn yesterday. They already predicted the winner. And they predicted it like wow. And they took early voting and statistics and said, here you go. I screenshotted it, and I'm going to see how close they are. Because if they are, I just shake my head going, wow, that's the problem with AI. You give it a little bit of data, and if it's good data, you get great answers. If it's bad data, you get bad answers. So we're going to see how good the data was putting it in, because I always think that is interesting when people do stuff like that. So, hey, I talk about the M2 money supplies. So here's the M2 and M3 money supplies over 25, 26 years. And what you see is it's going up and to the right. It's been very flat the last couple of years. Very flat the last couple of years. And that's interesting because it is going to go up and to the right in the future. You can see where the U.S. is, UK, Canada, Switzerland. All right. That's a little green line there at the top. Right? But hey, you can see the graph. It's interesting because you can overlay that graph and probably look at the stock prices. You see that little dip where the M2 money supply went down? Well, we saw that in 2022. Just thought I'd throw it out that, hey, it's there. It's not make-believe. So let's talk about sectors. And this is just me talking about some sectors, right? We was going to look at the last month. Financial services still leads the way. Communication, technology. I think on my last video, I said technology was still lagging. Energy's up there, but healthcare and utilities are down. But utilities, you can see the rotation. You can start seeing the rotation because utilities was up all year long, and you're starting to see the rotation. There's a whole gameplay how these things rotate. Not part of my channel, not what I want to talk about, but hey, if you're into that, you're starting to see the rotation. Over the last month, value in all segments, you can see the year to date, and we're going to talk about, you got the growth, and growth is outpacing value. When does that rotate to value overpaces growth? Something to be paying attention to. And I talked about this the last couple weeks, so nothing new there. Let's talk about Bitcoin. I'm going to keep my comments to myself about Bitcoin. Received a lot of flack on Bitcoin. But somehow BlackRock keeps on buying and buying and buying. Let's throw it out. Well, they know that you don't know. But hey, each their own. All right, but, we gave up some gains. We see the S&P futures are gaining again. It's one of those things to keep in mind. I personally, I mine my own Bitcoin. I have it on the side. Really not profitable. If I didn't have free electricity, it would not be profitable. Just thought I'd throw that. Not be profitable unless you've had free electricity. You can't compete to the big guys. You just can't. You can try. You can get into these services that have 5-6 cents and they support your miner, and there's a lot more risk to that than it's not worth it. Personal opinion. Just go out and buy an ETF and call it good. Personal opinion, not financial advice. All right, hey, we look at the major currencies and you sit back and go, these are against the US dollar, British pounds down for the year. Not a currency guy, but it's one of those things that you got to put back in your mind that, hey, will the dollar decrease over time against everybody else? Don't know. Let's watch it. Try to continue to put that into the sweet teas so you can see where that is every week. So, jobs. God, jobs. Anybody that believes the jobs reports that come out, that's a sucker's bet. I got beachfront property in Arizona. Somebody said that the other day. I got beachfront property in Arizona, if you can believe those jobs report. If you believe the jobs report's going to come out and it's not going to get advised, and not usually get advised down, then, you're just missing the whole point. All right. So the jobs report got revised, and you can see where the jobs are, and you just sit back and go, durable goods, administrative is down. I mean, it's just a lot of down jobs. In that, if you're not going to go to college to get a degree, and you don't have to, honest opinion, you don't have to have a college degree to be a millionaire. Not even close. But going to trade school, you got to have some kind of skill. All right? And I had a friend in high school. He didn't graduate college, but he was a computer programmer and taught himself computer programming. And he went and did consulting work as a computer programmer. And he made a fortune. Great guy. Him and his wife, they made a fortune computer programming. Taught it himself. And this is 30 years ago. All right, so have a skill. Have a skill that's in demand. Just have a skill that's in demand. I mean, he taught himself computer programming. Hey, the last one I want to throw out, and this is something for everybody to think about, and then we're going to continue to talk, is Seeking Alpha has alpha picks, and I never bought into this. It's a little too much, a little too rich for my taste. But I look at the alpha picks and how they've compared, and they've done well. They've done extremely well. But they're using some quantitative analysis of what to buy, what to buy. But you should check them out. I'll leave a link down below for Seeking Alpha if you want to go check it out. It's just something I didn't do it. I can't. If I had more money, maybe I would. So, that's this week's covering data. Give you some more nuggets, something to think about. So, if you're in a FIRE movement, they want you to save 50%. And by the way, the FIRE movement uses the whole 4% rule. Just thought I'd throw that out. They base all that FIRE off of 4%. And I'm sitting there going, no, I can take my 8 and reinvest the rest and get on down the road. Why do you have to do 4? That is just my thoughts, right? You get to this point of your life, you want to take a little bit easier, take a little bit off, right? So cover calls, I'm going to continue to cover them. I got my selection. I'm going to de-risk a little bit of SPY-T and GIAX, just a little bit. Move a little bit more into SPY-T. I don't think that I'm going to buy a whole lot more of those. I'm going to do a lot more of the CLOs. I really like it to be a 35-35 split. 35% into equities, 35% into CLO kind of investing, and take your pick on the rest of it, right? You got your little bit of high yield bonds. Okay. You got your SFOL. I'm not getting out of SFOL. 15%. And I only need 8. And that's the concerning part. I see everybody screaming about SFOL, and it's just like, are you trying to live off of 15? Because obviously you are. Because why are you not reinvesting the 7? I'm reinvesting my 7. I'm going to take my 8%, my original investment, and I reinvest the 7 every single month. So that's what bothers me. Those are the comments that bother me. I'm taking 100% of Coney. I just want to go bang my head up against the wall. It's just like, okay, and Coney's down and you didn't reinvest anything back in it. You didn't compound anything. Good luck. Really, good luck. I'm banging my head against the wall because I see these comments and I'm just, older people. Okay. Anybody over the age of 50, you need to start looking at a little more security. Let's start throwing it out, right? I mean, could I do the 4%? I think 4% would make me really tighten my belt going forward. Really take a lot more less adventures, a little more, rice and beans. But yeah, I probably could do 4%. All right, but why should I? I should take 8. Live happily. And that's what I'm trying to preach. So keep with it. Keep with it. Don't get discouraged. Don't buy at the top of the market. Well, they say you can buy at the top of the market and you look at it a 1 year, 2 year time period, you're just fine. I'm a little more cautious. That's why I'm going to de-risk a little bit of this. I really like that other, stuff that's outpacing the market. FEPI, AIPI, they're not going anywhere. Just, even if the price goes down, I'll just wait for it to break that 50-day and start reinvesting back into them. Remember, I only need 8. I mean, they're really paying me a lot of money for me to go get some CLOs and stuff like that and do a 35-35 split. That's the business development companies, the rest of them, 30, they're going to have that rest of that 30%, maybe a little bit more. So, hey, maybe my $500,000 has to go to $450. So it ends up being more of a split. So, that's just Brad's thoughts for the week. Everything's going great, actually. And I really appreciate the support. Really did. I really thought, hey, I don't need to get beat up on YouTube. I get beat up at home with my wife enough. I didn't need some fool coming on saying, oh, you're such an idiot. Bitcoin's a scam. Yeah, whatever. Just because you don't like what I like, you don't have to sit there and make a comment. I mean, it's like one thing to think about, and this is just think about this. So you go into somebody else's house and you're going to insult them because the channel owned by YouTube is really my house. You don't go into somebody else's house and insult them. and say, oh, it's free speech. Okay, click. And if it wasn't such a big problem, I'm seeing more and more YouTubers, and I'm going to say YouTubers that I inspired to be like, having to have community guidelines. All right, there's several YouTubers I really like, and they're having to put these policies in. And I've reached out to them and asked them why, and they got the same feedback. Right? They're the same comments that I'm seeing. You get this core little group that just, they don't understand, and they're all upset, and they want you to be their financial advisor. I want to do back testing. I love that back testing. I love that tool. I'm going to do on my own first. So lots to back test. Right? And to show you the data. And then you guys can make your own decisions. So stick around. And that's going to be it for the Sweet Nuggets. I didn't watch Gold Rush. God, I just don't want to pay for Gold Rush up in the Yukon. I don't even know if it's on this year. Man, Discovery Channel. When I was traveling, I used to love watching Gold Rush because we don't have cable. My apartment doesn't have cable. So I would have to buy Gold Rush or buy another service. We're not going to buy it. Remember? Tight. That's tight. Save 50%. Like the FIRE movement. That's tough. Even when I lived in the RV, saving 50% was tough. That's a tough base. You know? But it can be done. You only have to do it for a few years, pile some cash, let it compound, even though somebody doesn't know what compounding means, but let it compound. So anyway, have a great weekend. And if you're watching this during the week, have a great week. Sweet tea, you can always buy one. You can always have a conference call with me, by the way. And you can always get a shout out if you ever want to do a shout out. But no shout outs about an ETF. I had to make that rule because that's what got a lot of people upset at me. Is somebody bought a shout out and wanted me to shout out about an ETF. And I did. And it got me in a whole lot of hot water because I took a look at it. I even made a video for the guy saying, hey, these are actually decent ETFs or closed-end funds. But at the end of the day, it got me in a whole lot of water because they thought I was getting paid to show it. And it's like, no, I'm not getting paid to show it. Somebody wanted me to talk about it and give them my opinion about these. That's the problem. That got me in a lot of hot water. A lot of people got upset. But hey, so there's a new rule in that. No shout outs about any funds because that's just going to get me in trouble. And the last thing I need to have is trouble. Okay. Gosh, no trouble. Until next time. God bless. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Guys, doing well. Got a turkey. Sweet dividends, if you stuck around. Turkey's for you. Just throw it out. It's all about sweet dividends and what's sitting behind me. Until next time, take care.